We'll be starting in about a minute. Good afternoon. I'm David Kellogg, Chairman of SCORE Westchester. On behalf of SCORE Westchester, the Westchester Multicultural Chamber, and the White Plains Public Library, welcome to what could be the most important webinar you ever attend, Building Bigger and Better Networks. You will be learning from two of the business world's top networkers how to build and maintain the network of relationships that entrepreneurs need to succeed. And you couldn't ask for better teachers. Before I introduce them, I want to say a couple of words about your sponsors. SCORE supports local entrepreneurs through free confidential mentoring and educational programs like this. The goal of the Multicultural Chamber is to create an inclusive environment where all Westchester residents are respected for the value they bring to the community. And it seeks to inspire collaboration among stakeholders so that cultural, racial, and religious differences are fully accepted and long-term social and economic change is achieved. And the White Plains Public Library is, well, the best place to find all the business information and resources you could think of. It is also the place that SCORE Westchester calls home. Now to our presenters. Charlene Nixon has over 25 years of business and networking leadership in several industries. She's the founder of the Westchester Multicultural Chamber, and she advises emerging business professionals and develops networking programs within diverse communities. Michael Brathwaite is the founder of the New York region of BNI, the largest business networking organization, and executive director of its Manhattan region. His career in the investment industry spans over 38 years, many of them in Morgan Stanley's wealth management division. Now, we want to make this an interactive discussion, so please put your questions in the Q&A box throughout the session. Also, a link to the recording will be sent to everyone afterward. And now I will turn it over to Charlene.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us here today for what we believe to be one of the most important webinars that every business professional needs to see. I'd like to thank Michael Brathwaite for joining us, and David, thank you for this opportunity. Raquel, I know you're behind the scenes, thank you. One of the things that happens when we're first told to business network, let's look at it this way. Congratulations, okay, on your graduation. So you've decided to go out on your own. Congrats. Congratulations on your new job. And with all of these things, you are told, go network. All right, but what is it? Michael, let's talk about that. What is networking and what is network?
Yes, well, it's funny because you're right. Networking or network is a noun, but it's also a verb. And I think the challenge is for many people, we focus on the network and going to network, but we don't really think about what are we trying to accomplish, right? So many things in life, you're given, go out there in the world and find business. But before you can find business, you have to find people. And then you say, where do you find those people, right? It has to do with, certainly chambers are a great place to meet business people, and certainly the Multicultural Chamber will be, of Westchester will be a great place for that. Certainly B&I, right? You can go to B&I groups and you can find people there. But
Okay, but let's before we lose the thought. When we hear that, when we hear network, what people do is exactly what you said. They go out there, right? They go out there to what they think is connecting, and they would connect with how they think they should connect, correct? But there are steps before that. There are steps before that. They need to know what it is. Okay.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it's instinct for us to just go out there, but while we're out there drinking as much wine and eating as much cheese as we can, are we really doing what is called networking to build sustainable networks?
no,
Okay.
the answer is no.
Right.
Right.
So let's give a definition. Let's give a definition here. So everyone, get your pens and papers out. Okay, you got to take lots of notes here. So let's give a definition of what people should be doing when they go out. Let's talk about symbiotic relationships. Let's talk about power partners. Let's talk about what they need to know before they put on their fancy dress and tight shoes and go out there to network.
Okay, you're gonna talk about my fancy dress? All right. And my high heel shoes? Okay, that's fair. I thought we were gonna talk about that, but that's all right. But no, I think, well, the first thing is understanding the business you're in, and then who are the natural partners that share customers, patients, clients, however you describe that person that you work with. Who are the others in other industries that work with exactly the same client? We'll use client just for the simplicity, right? So you know who your client is. So I think that's the first step. Who is your client? Who were you looking to meet? And then who else is looking to meet the same client or has that client? So
Okay, let's give an example of that. Go ahead.
Okay.
Give an example.
Okay, an example of that, and probably the easiest is when we think about the real estate industry, right? If you're in the real estate industry, you need someone to ultimately buy or sell a house, right? But you could be in many aspects of that. You could be the real estate agent, right? So you're the one that's going to take them out and look for the house, but you could also be the mortgage person. You're the one that provides the lending. So you have the same customer, but you're going to see them at different points in time. Or you could be the attorney that's going to actually take care of the documents. So those are just one simple example of three professions that would share exactly the same client as they do a real estate transaction. And certainly we could think of 10 or 15 in that one category alone.
Exactly. So our attendees, I would like for you guys to write what your profession is, and then your homework would be to discuss who works with that same person that's not going to compete with you. And that is called symbiotic relationships. Okay, so when we think about networking, now so that's how you build your network. That's the start, the first block to building a network. So let's talk about networking. Okay, when we get out there and now we're in this room and I have all these prospects. It's like, oh my God, I have hit a home run. Okay, home run. I am going to give my card to every single person in this room. Give us your take on that. How that works for you, or does it work against you?
Okay, well, I used to call myself the king of the business cards, and I would go to those networking events and I would give out my card to everybody, and I would literally get everybody's card, and I would take those cards and take them back to my office and pile them up in little piles. And I have a whole lot of business cards, but I really didn't know the people. I didn't know what they were looking for. I didn't know much about them. And the reality was I didn't even reach out to them to even follow up. So the activity of networking, which I was doing very vigorously, didn't lead to any future business because I didn't advance relationships and I didn't have the target in mind. And I always say, if you go to an event, there's 100 people in the room, actually your goal is to meet one or two of the right people. Right? And right is defined in multiple ways. One, by the category of profession, right? But also by common interests. right? So you want to ultimately network and work with people that you have things in common with, like-minded people coming together that share an interest, and at the same time that you may be able to even help and impact. So networking isn't just about what you can get. It has to start with what you can give.
Very good. Now, you said you were the avid networker or the avid card collector. I know that, and that is true. The whole rainforest probably complained. But you said connect and make that authentic, organic connection with one or two people. Would it be fair to say that the person you might connect with may not be in the industry that's symbiotic to yours, right? But the purpose is find that common interest where you form that connection, and then you do a follow-up, because now you and that person now have something to talk about, okay? And that's the key, is that authentic, organic connection. So when you meet that person, what you really want to do is meet that person's network also. And the only way that would happen is if you form that authentic, organic connection. Handing someone your card and taking theirs is an action. I can't even say a transaction. It's just an action of collecting. So the goal is, when you meet someone, when you're out there networking, get an understanding of what they do. Be the listener and be present in the moment, okay? Because now that person will remember you. Okay, so when you call to follow up, you already have that connection. So now you are another building block. Now you're building relationship, okay? So, and networking. Now, not everyone is comfortable in an open networking environment. You go to an event and there's a lot of people, and most of them seem to belong to a group already. They know who they know, and you're the person there now coming into this new experience. And then there is structured networking. Okay, for example, the structured networking is where there's an agenda, where everyone has to follow the rules, and everything is timed. And it's more restrictive, but it suits a certain type of networker. Okay, and restrictive in the sense that it bottles you, it keeps you feeling safe because you have rules to follow. And within those rules, then you can take the pieces, the bite-sized pieces, to grow and to expand your business. Am I correct?
Absolutely. No, 100%. And both have their role, right?
Correct.
And I think that's so, but where you started this though is the comfortability or lack of comfort, which I would say most people who really, there's a rare person that loves talking to strangers, right? Most people, we rather talk to people we know than people we don't know, right? That's an instinctive thing. And I'd say that's one of the, we call top 10 mistakes. Go to a networking event and hang out with the friends that you already knew and meet no one new, right? So that's mistake one. So you automatically know when you go to a new room with a bunch of people you don't know, you want to find the people you don't know versus the people you know. So what I do, just one of my little tricks, there's always someone else as uncomfortable as you are, if not more uncomfortable, that's kind of left alone too. There's always the lone people, right? That's the person you go up to. Right. And they're going to be thrilled because they couldn't figure out who they were going to talk to. And now, so you just find and create your own grouping, right? By reaching out to somebody and asking them an engaging question about themselves, right? Nothing about who you are. And that's the greatest challenge. It's not about telling who you are or selling them anything or really giving them your card. It's more important to learn about who they are and what are they looking for and what's a great referral for them. That's one, I think, the best questions to ask.
Exactly. And why talk about them? Because we're all vain and the world revolves around us. We want to talk to you about us and our accomplishments and what we do and our family, and get it going, get it going, so that then you find that one thing. Oh, you have kids that ski in the same lodge. I don't know, you're going to find something where you're comfortable. Right? And you take that with you. Something happened to me recently at a fundraising event, and each event you go to is a networking event, no matter what the label is. Okay, so I was at this fundraising event, and I was standing there, the only person, never been here before, didn't know what to do. I was really outside of my comfort zone. And this one woman walks up to me, never met her before. And she said to me, "Hi, my name is so-and-so. Who are you?" And I told her, and she said, "Good, come with me." And every person she walked around and introduced me to, she said, "This is my good friend. This is my good friend, Charlene. Her organization is this." Today, we are still friends. And I have met so many people within her circle and invited her to so many things within my circle. And our worlds don't really meet. We probably would never do business together, but we support each other's businesses because we like each other. People don't do business, go to any events, and they don't do business because they like your product and service. People do business with people they like. They will find a reason to do business with you if they like you, which is why it is necessary for you to learn your business. Whatever that business is, learn it, know the demands of it, know the expectations of it, and learn how to explain what you do in layman's terms. And learn to do so in 60 seconds, 30 seconds, and 15 seconds, because sometimes that is the only window of opportunity you have to grab someone. Okay, so when do we network? When? I mentioned when do we network?
Well, you should be networking all the time. I think to what you said earlier, you're going to be at all types of events, whether it's fundraisers, right? It could be certainly working with nonprofits, it could be corporate events. But the interesting thing, whatever event you're at, and this was a question that came up years ago, is it appropriate to network at a wake/funeral, right? And that's a big debate. It's not, is it appropriate? And the answer I've heard over the years, always honor the circumstance, right? So if you're at a funeral, it's honoring the person that we're there for, but you're still going to talk to people. You're still going to have conversations. So I think part of this is having in conversations that are intentional versus conversations that are random. Right. So when you're talking to someone, you're learning about them. You're learning their likes and the dislikes, and you're learning the things that they need in their lives that maybe you can help or introduce them to somebody to. And so I think the answer is you're always networking. Back to that question, no matter where you are, but obviously do it in a way that it doesn't disrespect the event itself. And I think the last part of it is the business card, right? As much as the card is almost the first part now we learned in networking, you meet someone, you hand them a card. Actually, I think that's the last thing you do, because at the end of a conversation, at that point, you'll know, are we going to follow up or not? Because it's not about taking the card. It's about, will I ever talk to you again in life again, right? That's going to be the determining factor. So I say take fewer cards, but make sure you talk to everybody of the cards you take. So now, instead of taking,
sorry, you mentioned, when you go to an event, regardless of the circumstance of the event. But isn't it fair to say, even if you're standing in the grocery line or you're waiting on your coffee, the goal is to be, and you mentioned earlier, looking for like-minded. And I have changed the way I say that, because I don't want to work with people like me, right? Only like me. I want to work, Michael is laughing, he knows why. You want to work with open-minded people that are open to difference, people that are willing to hear what you have to say. Sometimes the best connections you meet is in that grocery line or that Starbucks line, because Absolutely. You're standing there and you just, conversation just happened. And then, if you can, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'll give you one there. When I call one of my better icebreakers, this is actually exactly for you're standing on Starbucks line or you're at a line at deli, wherever it is, and you're waiting. And obviously everybody, no one likes being online. But what I love to do in that situation, I'll turn to the person either in front of me, behind me, and I'll say to them, what I love to do for fun is guess what people do for a living. And whenever you ask that question, people literally will pose. And it's so fascinating because they want to know what they what does the world see? Are you going to be able to guess my profession? And it's like one of the better icebreakers, and that you can have in terms of starting a conversation. It's focused on them, and and sometimes you're right. Most times I'm not, but it doesn't matter, right? Because now we laugh about it, and because whatever you say, then they go, "I look like that, really?" And it really starts the conversation off on a fun note, and then that puts you in a position then to be able to say, "Hey, based on the profession you're in, I'm not working with anybody closely on profession. I'd love to learn more about what you do, and maybe we can work together. Why don't we set up a time to have a cup of coffee?"
Yes. Now, as we know, COVID has affected us, right? It has affected the way we interact. It has affected that that person to person, that look me in the eye, and the eye is the window to the soul. It has affected that. But humor still remains that connector. No matter what screen or lenses we're looking out of, we can connect through humor. And I'll just share a connection I made via Zoom. Now, as you know, most of us are dressed from the waist up, right? Nobody knows we're wearing our pajamas or sweatpants underneath and barefooted. So I was actually in a meeting, and I'm very well dressed to the top and stuff like that, and forgot. Okay, and got up and walked away. And when I came back, the gentleman said to me, "So you're wearing sweats, huh?" And we had a really good laugh about it. I guarantee you we have, like you said, I just told the story, so I have not forgotten him. I know he has not forgotten me. And then we started to talk about, you turn around, you turn your chair around. And I'm like, I'm not going to do all of that, because we all know that 80% of us are dressed from the waist up when we're on Zoom, okay? So it's just about that authentic, organic connection that bonds you, that stays with you, that allows you to tell that story to someone else. Like you walk into a room and you see someone just as uncomfortable, you walk up to them and say, "Oh my God, you too." And you share a joke, this happened, and you form that connection. The reason you network, to form these connections and build these relationships, okay, it's not just for sustainability. It's so that you can now become the giving tree. All right. So tell me about the giving tree through your eyes, Michael.
Yes. Well, certainly the giving tree is just always focusing on the person that's in front of you and really thinking about their needs and who in your circle that would be great that they met. Right. And it sometimes it's specifically to do business. Sometimes it's just because you have a common interest that you both will be able to share. Sometimes it's because of your family backgrounds. It means there's so many reasons that but that's what you're looking for, because you'll always be remembered if you make a difference in someone's life versus if you try to get something from them. So what I see over the years, most powerful people that I've met are the givers, right? And they give way more than what would be reasonable. And like I said, but they also understand it's not just dollars and cents, it's connections, it's relationships, it's information, right? It's and especially information for their friends and family. So it's a lot of ways to give it. So I'd say that's the giving tree.
Yeah, well, and networking isn't transactional.
Right.
Every now and again, a transaction happens, but always remember, networking is not about transaction. It's a process over time with building that trust. Okay, it must be something. For example, I just won the lotto, right? And I now have $100 million this is the second time I won. So what am I going to do with this money? I don't know. I'll just pull out a CPA from the book, from the oh my God, I almost dated myself and say Yellow Pages.
Someone will know what you're talking about.
I would not randomly pick a CPA or a wealth manager and just give them all my money, right? It has to be someone that I trust or someone that I know. Trust that person.
Right.
And that's a referral. Okay. Now everyone likes to say, "Oh, I know someone," and you can, but in networking and building a network, another building blocks is referral. Is referral. Okay. But let's say qualified referrals. Qualify that referral before, during, and after you have passed it on. Want to talk about that a little bit, Michael?
Absolutely. Well, it goes back to being a good listener, right? It's knowing what a person is, the type of client that they're going to work well with, and then making that introduction, but not just in just passing a name. It may be doing it formally. It may be setting up a conference call, setting up a Zoom call, setting up a lunch, and really putting two people together. But like you said, the qualifying is the key element, and that's why you did your homework prior to, right? That's why you're always asking questions about the person's business, about their customers. Who do you work with? Who do you work well with? Why do you work with that person? Because when we find out those authentic reasons, one of the other questions I love to ask people, why did you get into the business you're in? And I'll give you one example of that. I was speaking to a nutritionist once in one of my chapters, and it was a big meeting, doing, a lot of people there. And I said, how's it going? She said, well, not so good. I said, why is it not so good? Well, these are accountants and they're finance people and lawyers, and they're really not giving me referrals for nutrition. They're not thinking about my business and their daily line of work. Well, so I asked them one question. I said, why did you come into the business you're in? And literally, when I asked that question, which was, common question, very innocently, she actually her eyes started to well up like she was about to cry. And she started to tell me the story about how she had a really dear friend of hers that had an eating disorder problem. And she just ate so much, got so ill from the way she ate, and she was so overweight, and she ended up dying very young, in her 30s. And she just saw that. She felt so horrible about it. And that's why she started studying nutrition. And that's why she's going to business. So I said to her, have you ever told anybody in this room that story? And she said, no, I never have. I said, well, that's the story you need to tell. Because once people understand, it's the old saying, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And so when we understand the origin of this, that little bit of how much passion she had, how much she cared about nutrition because it's life or death, right? That is what people will connect to. And so what I find interesting, so many people keep secret a part of themselves, which is what motivated them to be there in the first place.
That's their why.
Yeah, and their why, exactly right. And when you think about it, that's how we're going to be able to give them referrals, when we know their why. Because then it's authentic. Why they're doing what they're doing is very authentic. Now you can help them, right? Because you understand that.
Yeah, and more so, I'd like to just piggyback on that a little bit. It's pulling at the heartstring, because when you tell an authentic story, that connection happens. It gets you thinking, and that's what you want to do when you share your story. You want to be as authentic as possible, so you emotionally connect to someone. Okay, I'm not talking about just emotional in sadness or anything. I'm talking about there's an emotional connection in laughter. There's an emotional connection in trust. And in networking, again, in networking and in building a better network, okay, you want people to tell your story just as passionate as you. Okay, you want people to remember that. And Michael, we talked about qualifying a referral. This is what happens a lot. I refer Michael to David. Michael, I think you should talk to David because he's with SCORE, and they, they'll help you start that ice cream business you want to start. And that's it. That's not a referral. Okay, that's giving Michael information. So because why is it not a referral or qualified referral? Michael then calls David. And he says, hey, David, my name is Michael. I was referred to you by Charlene, and blah, blah, blah. And David does not have a clue because David was not expecting that call. David does not know who Michael is, what Michael needs are. So it just delays the process. So if you give Michael's David information, the next step is to contact David and say, David, a friend of mine, Michael, is going to call you. He wants to start a business selling ice cream. Be prepared for his call. Okay, he's going to call you the next couple of days. So when Michael calls David, David can now say, I've been expecting your call. Now what happens there? Michael feels heard. He immediately feels value. And when he feels that value, what happens? Who does he remember?
You.
He'd remember me. Because what it says is that I cared so much that I called David on his behalf. All right. And that is how you keep building this network of sustainability. As we talked about earlier, the giving tree.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, that's currency. What you're talking there is how you create currency.
How you convert it to currency. You know,
Yeah.
Michael and I, we used to say a lot about networking gives you for visibility. And it's marketing. Networking is the marketing of one's self. Okay. It gives you the visibility you need to establish the credibility to create revenue or turn that credibility into cash. Okay, so do the next step. That's how you build that network of sustainability. That's how you build a better network. And again, I keep saying the given tree because there's something that's stuck in my head that I want to say. You want to be the person that everyone calls. I need a plumber. Hey, Michael, do you know a plumber? I need a roofer. Hey, Michael, do you know a roofer?
Absolutely.
That's the person you want to become. Because
Well,
you know
so-
why? Every time you help that person, guess what? It's branded in their head who they're going to. Continue,
Absolutely.
Michael.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and the best way to look at that is think the opposite way, right? So let's say we use the realtor in the beginning. Let's go back to the realtor. So you have a realtor, they have found a house for you, and now you go to that realtor, say, you know what? I need someone to help with the interior design. Do you know anybody? And that realtor said, nope, don't know anybody. He said, okay. Well, I also need to do my landscaping. Do you know anybody? Nope, don't know any landscapers. You would look at that and say, what kind of realtor is this, right? So part of it is, yes, it's a good business to be giving and create that network around you of professionals that you can share with your potential customers, but it also creates a level of credibility for you, right? Because you want, as you said earlier, you want them to look at you like you're the answer. You don't want them to look at you and say, you're not the answer. And I ask this person the question, they never have the answer. So part of it is good business. And so when we talk about building a network, most people build a network just to make money in the end, right?
Okay, I know that's important, but let's table it for a second because Roger just asked a question and I want to get all the questions answered. Okay, so when is a good point to ask a person for their business?
That's a great question.
I have my answer, but I'm gonna let you go first.
Okay, I'll go first, and I can't wait to hear yours. For me, I say it really comes down as you develop the relationship. The first part is see where you can impact them, right? So before I ask for business, I want to see if I can help somebody. I want to make sure that I have a good connection, and I want to show them that I have value and I have knowledge and I have information. And once we've done that and we've built the relationship to a comfortable level, now we're in a position to find out what are the steps required for us to do business together, right? So initially it's the introduction, it's the opening, it's getting to know them. Right. Once I've done that, because candidly, when you ask that question, sometimes the answer is I'm already working with 2 or 3 people in your profession that I'm very satisfied with. The best one I've heard is someone, their brother was in the same business I was in. That was a good reason not to give me the business, right? So you want to find out, are you referable or are they able to refer? I think that's part of it. I know you're dying to give your answer.
I know, right? Michael knows me very well. And that is such a delicate thing to do, right? So it puts you in that, oh my God, because here you can actually build, strengthen the relationship, or you can lose the relationship completely. All right, because asking is not about asking, it's about how. It's about how that transition happens. And there are some asks that's easier than others. Okay, if there's a baker and they know you have a wedding, your daughter is getting married, they can say, you know what? I love to be able to bake that for you. And that does not come across as harsh, right? It seemed like an act of kindness. But if you're a CPA and you met this person at 6 months, you guys networking together. Hey, it's tax season. Why can't I do your taxes? Why? It may not sit right. It may, because when we're talking money, it's a lot more delicate than when we're talking tangibles, right? I have shoes, I sell shoes, I have pocketbooks, I sell, and these are the things that's coming to my head. So if anybody want to pop any suggestions in there or answers in there, I'll be happy to share it. But asking is how. Asking is all about how. Because you can always tell someone, hey, you know what? I would love the opportunity to, and I know that will take time. However, I would really like the opportunity. And I can share with you people that I have worked with, that's not my children or my husband, that would be able to give testimonial to what I do and how well I do it. And again, the ask takes time. Networking and relationship building is about trust. You've got to establish that trust. I know some of you may not want to hear that, but if you're out there enough, you're going to see the same people over and over. And a smile, a handshake, a hug, virtual or not, it's the same. Form that connection and build trust. And that happens over time. That's a process that happens over time. Michael, is it?
I was gonna say, and certainly you say it right, the patience. It's about having patience. And the other side I'd say is it's definitely how you ask, but it's also your expectation. If you put something, I say in sales and networking and relationship building, you can ask anything as long as you can accept the answer. So you have to be ready for the answer is the other side of it. Because if someone says to you, I'm not gonna be able to do business with you, and they give you a reason, whatever that reason is, that's a good reason. It's not for you then to say, no, you're wrong, you made a mistake, you're misunderstanding, you have to accept it. So it's a balancing act of being patient, but I think the most important is to be really kind to them and make a difference in their life. And reciprocity works, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't expect it to work, but if you put enough good in the universe and you help enough people, they'll help you. The other aspect, which I think is important, is to understand that you are only going to work with certain professions. Let's say CPAs are a great contact for you. You can't have 10 CPAs, right? Because you're not going to be able to give enough to each of those CPAs to justify the back and forth. You're giving them business, they're giving you business. So you have to focus on maybe one or maybe two of those CPAs, get to know them well, make a difference in their lives, and they'll make a difference in yours versus trying to have, I always say, dig deep, not wide. Right? So go very deep in a relationship as you develop it. Don't try to meet so many people that you can't stay in front of them.
And you dilute yourself.
Oh, absolutely. It's top of mind.
You dilute yourself, yeah.
When you see someone regularly and you're with them on an ongoing basis, over time, you're going to do business anyway. Right?
Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, I'm going to stress on that authentic connection, because once someone is connected with you, like for example, I'm married to my printer. Come hell or high water, he's getting my print job. All right. But then I meet a printer and we have this connection. You know what happens? I want to do business with him. I want to do something to help him. So I may give him one of my print jobs, or because of his location, I may refer business to him. Okay. Not that I'm taking away from my printer, but the locations may not match.
Right.
Okay. So Judy Douglas has asked us, sometimes you're networking with individuals that aren't the decision makers for gaining corporate clients. How do you approach that situation? You ask them. You ask them who the person is.
Right.
And it's always important to know the gatekeeper, but you want to meet the decision maker. Ask them, who do I need to connect with in your organization that can help me make this decision? And the answer is like, I don't exactly know, but speak to this person. And it's work. You got to do the work. You want the business to happen, do the work. It's not magic.
Yeah, and I'd say, you say do the work, I'd say do the homework, right?
Well-
And so what that means is
Isn't
doing your
homework
own
work?
research. So if you know someone is in a certain business, right, it's your job to figure out within that company or organization, who is the person you would like to meet, right? Who's the head of marketing? Who's the head of purchasing, right? You want to figure that out. And so you help them by saying, either targeting a certain profession or giving them the actual name and saying, this is the person I'd love to meet. Do you know them? Or do you know that the person that works for them, right?
Yeah, but that's one way. Okay, now I'm gonna just be the devil advocate here. I'm networking with this person, according to Judy. Judy is networking with the person.
Right.
That person is a part of her group. Okay, so have that person help you. If you have developed a bond with that person, ask the person, who do I speak to? Who do you report to? What department are you in? Okay, and once you know those things, then you know the next step. So that person is an entry point for you. Now, if you're coming in cold, then yes, do your homework. Who is the head of this department? Who is the head of that department? Who's the head of procurement if you want to sell something? Then also you need to know, do they have to hire a certain amount of minority-owned business? Do they only work with certified minority-owned businesses? So there's a lot of things that you need to know. Now, here's what we know. We know what we know. We know what we don't know. And we don't know what we don't know. So in networking, here's what's going to happen. It's going to qualify what you know. You're going to get answers for what you know you didn't know. And the percentage of what you don't know that you don't know should shrink, because now you should be getting more questions. You should be understanding things differently to ask deeper and wider questions. So don't be afraid at any point in time when you're networking with someone and you have developed a relationship within that arena. I need you to help me get to this person, or how do I get my product or my services recognized by your organization? And that's the best advice that I can give you, and that has proven to work for me. So Roger and Judy, can you tell me if we answered your question? And any more questions, we welcome it.
Yeah, bring the question on. I want to quickly, if we change topics, because this is something that I've heard a lot recently because of what we've gone through in terms of the pandemic. So we've been on Zoom a lot more. And so people have struggled with, how do you network on Zoom, right? And I say it works the same, except you have to pay more attention, you have to give more effort, and you have to have better follow-up. Right. So, and what I'm finding is, because we're on Zoom, people are committing less effort to it. So they go on some kind of networking event, they don't even turn their camera on, they're kind of doing emails or multitasking and not giving their full attention to the meeting that's in front of them. So what I say is, while we're in this mode, which looks like the good news will be changing and getting back in person, but Zoom networking events will still exist. We know that.
We're going to hybrid. We'll hybrid.
Absolutely. So give more attention, pay closer detail to the individuals, and really listen for the keys to who you can help, or they say something that intrigues you, that'd be a reason to follow up, right? I heard you mentioned on that Zoom call you mentioned this about something that there was a commonality or something that drew my attention to you. I'd love to talk further, right? So if you're not listening, you're never going to hear those things, and you're sitting back and wondering why I'm not getting success. And you can hate Zoom, and I hate the computer, and I hate doing this. It's the opposite. Embrace it. Pay closer detail. Understand you're in the front of the room every day. You're in front of your Zoom screen, and you're not missing a single word. Use it to your advantage.
And not only that, let's continue that for a second. Be present in the moment. You know, in that I'm choosing my words wisely here. You will not succeed if you're box checking. Okay, okay, I'm gonna go to this event. I go, I show up, I walk around, I leave. You just box checked. You put on your Zoom so it can say your name and I was here and I attended. You did not attend. Your computer attended. Okay, you're not gonna make those connections. Like Michael said, be in that moment, be present there listening. Okay, and only when you're listening and you're hearing conversation, believe it or not, that energy that's coming out of that is forming connections. Because one, you're gonna learn something. Okay, you're gonna connect in one way or the other, and it may not even be to the person speaking. It may simply be to someone that asked a question, or someone that you saw their industry. I was like, you know what? I want to learn more about that. Okay, but you can't follow up if you don't have a reason to follow up. So I can send out a message. Hey, David, my name is Charlene. I am with the Westchester Multicultural Chamber. This is what we do. Why would David care? Unless he wouldn't care, because I am just another email that spammed him, right? So, but if I connect with David and I say, hey, I heard you on blah, 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 and you said da, da, da. How can you explain this to me? Can you clarify this to me so that I can get a better understanding? And I'll be happy to connect with you at your time, blah, blah, blah. Here's my number. Guess what? David will connect. Because one, you made him feel good. You listened to him enough to come up with a question. Two, you were bold enough to reach out and say, hey, I see you. Okay, I respect your profession. I respect the fact that you're out there walking the talk for business and small business, and I need your support.
Absolutely.
Right?
And you said that, Charlie. I had a good friend of mine said he went to an event, this was years ago, where Colin Powell was speaking. And after it was over, he went up to him to just, say, introduce himself and tell him he really appreciated the presentation. And what he said to him, and I forget the exact phrase, it was something doctorate. He said, oh, I love when you talk about the so-and-so doctorate, but he didn't talk about the presentation. It was in his book. And he said, when he said that, a smile came over his face, General Powell, and he said, you read my book. Right. And then they had a great conversation like from there. But so even, like I said, someone at that level of stature, right? And obviously he put all these books out, but the fact that someone spoke to him about his words meant something to him. So it goes straight to your point that people will personalize things if you're listening, right? And if you really hear them.
And just pay close attention to what Michael just said. Spoke to him, not spoke at him. Okay, there's a big difference there, because when you speak at, we just come on, hey, myself, and you start regurgitating all the things about you. When you're speaking to someone or with someone, you're forming connection. Okay, the key to building your network is that connection, and give it time, because you want to be the giving tree. Okay, build a trust that is needed so someone is confident and comfortable enough to pass you a qualified referral. And how you fulfill that referral is the invitation into their network. So you have now widened your network. Okay, now Michael and I talked, when we were planning this, we talked about your primary team and your secondary team and building a network. Michael, you want to talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. Well, when I say your primary team, and we use that phrase, it's the number one person you're going to do 80% of your business with. You know them well, you trust them, they've helped clients of yours in the past, and you have that level of confidence that they're going to satisfy most of your client needs or whatever that profession is. But it doesn't mean it's exclusive. So you may have that secondary person, right, that handles a slightly different way of working, works with a slightly different client or customer. And so you have 1, 2, or even 3 go-to people, right? That you can refer business to, but that to me is the limit. So I think that's really, and that's, some people will disagree, right? They will try to have 10 people in a certain profession that they will hopefully work with. I think that's too, you dilute yourself when you do it that
But
way.
that person is not working with, that person is there to get.
Correct.
Okay, that's different. That person is there to get. That person is not really there to give, because you can't give the same business to 10 people.
No.
Now, it's always good to give, when you give a referral, you have 1 or 2 people, you say, these are the 2 people I can refer to you, see which one works best for you. And then you call the 2 people and you say, hey, so-and-so will be, calling you, they're looking for X, Y, Z, and let that person make the decision as to who they want to do business with. Because networking, it's not natural to most of us. It's an art. It's about a rhythm. It's your rhythm, their rhythm, how you connect. Some of us like to dance at a higher tempo. Some of us prefer the waltz. So it's about knowing who you are as a person. Remember, self comes first. Self, know yourself, know your personality, okay? Know your career, know your profession, inside and outside. So when you talk about it, a 7-year-old can understand. If you can't speak about it for a 7-year-old to understand what you do and why you do what you do, we have work to do. Give us a call, we'll help you, okay?
I think there's a couple of questions out there too, Shirley.
Oh, more? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I am feeling, all right. Okay, Roger said it was helpful. He's grateful. Thank you, Roger. We're happy to have you. Peggy, okay, it's moving. What are current best practices for networking on LinkedIn when I only have 3rd-level connections with my target clients? That's actually a great question for this time that we're living in. What I have noticed is every time I go to an event, I get bombarded with LinkedIn connects. Okay, I'll share a story, Peggy. I missed a meeting, a networking meeting, because I put it in the wrong date in my calendar. And next thing I did, I got a LinkedIn message saying, oh, it was great to meet you yesterday, blah, 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 blah. So I said, well, it's great to connect with you today because I actually missed that meeting yesterday. So we did not connect yesterday. And the gentleman explained, why he connected. And, we had a good laugh about it. He's like, thank you for checking me on that. But now I know him, he knows me. So you're a 3rd-level connection with someone. You need to travel that backwards. See who they're connected to that's connected to you on a 1st level. Okay, and then reach out to that person that you're connected with and ask them if they can make that connection for you. Or if you think that this person should really meet you, know what sets you apart. Okay, because there's a gazillion people doing what you do, Peggy. So why would this person want to meet you? You need to answer that question when you reach out to that person cold. Okay, why should they meet you? And once you have that concise and condensed, that you're an asset to this person, jump in, ask them to connect with you. Okay, now we have Marianne, I'm gonna say her name wrong, M-M-I-R-A-D-A-N-D, Miranda, M. Miranda.
Right.
Miranda would suggest, hi, would you suggest to include your story of why in your mission statement, especially when at a networking event that gives a limited time to speak? If you're speaking, you can put your why. If you're connecting, you want to explain who you are, what you do, why you do it, in 60, 30, 15 seconds, depending on the window you have. When you make that connection and you start speaking with the person, your why becomes important. Your why will be the glue that holds that relationship together.
No, absolutely. I love what you said earlier too, that most times it's why that person would want to be interested in hearing from you is much more than why you want to talk to them. I mean, I always said that, you can talk about any celebrity. Oh, I'd love to meet that celebrity. But the question is, why would they want to meet you? Right. That's the more important aspect of it. And then certainly if you have a compelling why, that will be part of your 30 or 60-second message.
But you be certain to not get lost in the emotion of it, because we can hear your story and connect with you emotionally and then leave, and we have no idea what you do and why we want to connect with you. You were just someone that told us a great story that touched our heart in this moment. So, we need to know business networking is business networking. Your business should be a part of your connection also. Okay, so always remember that. You don't want to overwhelm anyone with your product and service, but somewhere in that connection, it should come up. Whether it comes up in the follow-up, because you must create a follow-up meeting. You must. If you want to connect with this person while that person still remembers who you are, set up a follow-up, coffee, tea, conversation while you're still fresh in their head.
Yep, you nailed it right there. Of all the things we talked about today, ultimately the success or failure in the process of doing networking will be your ability to create a continuation of that conversation. And that's called the follow-up, right?
Exactly.
And if you set it up properly, there's a reason to follow up. So that's what you're always looking for in those first conversations. What information do you have? What information can you share with them, or you need to get from somebody that will create another conversation that then hopefully leads to another conversation, right? So this is iterative over time, right? You're building small steps. When you look at the relationship a year from now, it's going to be a lot different than it was when you first met.
Mm-hmm. And mission statements, let's talk about that. Mission statements is an evolving thing. It will evolve as you evolve, and as you dissect it, as you dissect you will find that your mission statement will change. It's not the substance of it is not going to change. The way you put it out there, you will iron it out. It will become neat and compact, and it can become 3 words. And in those 3 words, it's your vision, your mission, your goal. Your story will be in those 3 words. Okay, so don't get caught up in having this long mission statement and trying to get everything in it. You have other opportunities, but get the depth of it out there.
Yep. No, I know we're close to the end of our time, but to prove your point of it could be 3 words, look at Nike. Just do it.
Correct.
Right.
Well,
so
we have definitely had a lot of fun here today, and I truly hope that we engaged you enough so that you are asking yourself questions, and maybe we have answered some of your no's that you didn't know, and we have given you more insight into knowing what you didn't know you didn't know. And none of this would be possible without Mr. Kellogg from SCORE. Please, SCORE is a resource. Use it. Okay, use it. And then find I'm going to sound like Joel Olson here. Find a networking group that you can fit into. Find a networking group that suits who you are. Thank you.
Wow, what a great discussion. I learned a lot. I wrote down a lot of notes. This really was helpful. Everyone, you will all receive a link to the recording so you can go back and hear it again. I want to acknowledge our sponsors and let you know how to reach them. SCORE is at westchester.score.org. The Westchester Multicultural Chamber is at wmccnys.org. And the library is at whiteplainslibrary.org. Now, please join me in thanking our speakers, Charlene and Michael, and happy networking.
All right, thank
Yes,
you.
please feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to get you launching your new business or expanding your current business. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.